Hi, I'm Lena Rao. Welcome to Ask a VC. We're joined today by Emergence Capital Partners, Kevin Spain. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here, Lena.
I'm going to go into your bio just a little bit before we start. You've led investments in Doximity, which is sort of a LinkedIn for physicians, social health management platform WellTalk. You also, focus on both consumer and enterprise. And prior to joining Emergence, you were a senior member of Microsoft's corporate development group and helped launch EA's online gaming business. So got a lot of different areas of expertise here. But what I'm really curious about is health, because you've been an early investor in the health tech space before it became sort of hot with wearables. And what I'm really curious about is what's the next wave of innovation, and where is that happening? Because I feel like we're seeing a lot around wearables and data, but I want to know what should investors or entrepreneurs be betting on next?
Sure. Well, I think we're a little bit biased at Emergence because we exclusively focus on B2B technology companies, so a lot of software as a service and cloud. And so when we invest in health technology, we're really looking for those business-centric digital health or health technology companies. And so where we see opportunities, frankly, today are in connecting a lot of the things that are happening in the consumer world back with the business constituents on the health plan side, on the provider side, so the physician side, with this new world, and helping them do more with that data, and helping them in some cases provide incentives back to consumers for actually using these devices in the appropriate way. So we think that's a really interesting space to focus on.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about diagnosis and how, because that kind of fits into what you guys are doing, and how there's a lot of disruption happening in the diagnostic world amongst physicians using data and sharing data.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's very promising. I think we are in the very, very early days of figuring out how to actually use this wealth of information that has become available to us to provide better diagnoses and provide better care. One of the initial problems you have to solve there is just getting all that data onto a common platform, normalizing it, and making it useful, because all this data today lives in all these different silos in very different formats. So that's an interesting business problem.
Yeah, for sure. My dad's a doctor, and he has an entire room of paper files. And where does that all go, and how does that get uploaded? And it's hard, right? I mean, but are you seeing this generation, with the companies that you've invested in, are you seeing a generation of physicians and doctors who are more receptive to this?
Without question. I mean, I look, for example, at Doximity, which you mentioned is one of our portfolio companies. They are sort of billed as LinkedIn for physicians, but they have a very strong collaboration component to their offering as well, helping docs exchange information more fluidly and seamlessly. And today they have almost a third of all US physicians registered on their platform. That's after just 2.5 years in business.
Wow.
So there's no question that doctors are embracing new technology, and they're using it as part of their daily work lives.
And what's the acquisition, market for some of these companies? I mean, you led acquisitions at Microsoft, so that's a totally different type of market there. But for health tech, I mean, is there a big acquisitive market? Is it the insurance companies? What is it?
Yeah, I think insurance companies have proven that they are willing to actually use their big balance sheets to acquire interesting technology companies. Insurance is becoming much more competitive with the Affordable Care Act coming into play. And so all insurance companies, health insurance companies, are looking for ways to enhance their offerings, sometimes with technology, to appeal to a broader range of consumers. But there are other interesting things happening. Google is getting into the healthcare space in a more aggressive way.
That's right.
You've got other big players out there. Microsoft at different points in time has certainly been very involved in healthcare. So I think it's not just going to be the traditional health IT and insurance players that will be buying companies here. I think we'll see a much broader landscape of buyers.
Well, going with the whole health angle, I want to touch upon a reader question. The question is, who are the major mobile-first players in healthcare, and what are some of the companies and trends that will drive adoption in healthcare for doctors and hospitals and patients and consumers? Sure.
Well, again, I'd sort of divide the world of mobile in healthcare into sort of two parts. There's the consumer-facing side of mobile healthcare, and clearly you have devices like are companies like Jawbone and Fitbit and others that I think are playing a meaningful role there. But then you've also got some companies that are focused more on the B2B side of the equation. Doximity is an interesting example. There was an interesting company at Rock Health's demo day yesterday called Augmetics that is actually building what I would consider to be effectively a mobile application for doctors on Google Glass. So I think we're going to see some interesting opportunities on both sides.
Yeah, especially with wearables and
Absolutely.
some of those things like Google Glass where a doctor could wear that and I don't know, maybe somehow use data in some way to replace your PC.
Right.
So
exactly.
I want to switch off of health to another reader question about value-added services. And this question is, what is really the VC's part in the startup and the founding? And in exchange for the check now, is it also utilities like administration, marketing help, PR? And I'm curious, where does Emergence kind of fall into that?
Sure. Well, I think we've always taken the perspective that as early stage investors, you have to be as helpful as an entrepreneur wants you to be as they're building their business. We have a strategy of being a smaller Series A focused firm. And by being smaller, we have more time to spend with our portfolio companies on the various tasks that they're working on at any point in time, whether it's recruiting or strategy or landing new customers. That's always something we've spent a lot of time on. You're starting to see more firms, I think, move in that direction because, frankly, that's what entrepreneurs want. That's what they need. They don't want board members who are just there to attend board meetings. They want board members who are true partners.
Right, and Vinod Khosla, at Disrupt a few weeks ago basically said that 90% of board meetings and investors are just it's not actually very productive because, you really need to be with the hands-on part of the daily routine of the company to really understand. So what I'm saying from you is the Emergence Capital is very hands-on. You guys are working in the trenches. That's kind of the value-added service.
That's our approach, and we have a range of things that we really pride ourselves in being able to help entrepreneurs with. I mean, one great example of this, which is very focused on the B2B or the SaaS world, is helping companies figure out the right go-to-market strategy for a SaaS or a B2B technology business. We've backed companies like Salesforce and Yammer and Box and others. We've seen all the different models that enable a company to go from a great product to a really fantastic business. And a lot of the magic there is sales and marketing and having the right strategy around that. So we spend a lot of time as an example on that area with our companies. And I think every investor brings something a little bit different. We can help in a lot of areas, but there are a few where I think we're really particularly strong, and I think that's true of probably most investors.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, is there any other area where you personally feel like it's your bread and butter, where you're the expert?
Well, I've spent a lot of my time prior to Emergence in larger technology companies doing business development and corporate development. So when it comes to major strategic partnerships or even just sort of day-to-day business development deals, or certainly when it comes to M&A, that's an area where I have a lot of expertise and where I often find myself getting fairly involved.
And how much sharing of information is there across the partnership?
There is a lot of sharing of information. We have a very tight team-oriented collaborative culture, and so we really do also pride ourselves on not being siloed, and that the companies I'm on the board of, those are my companies, and no one else is ever going to help or care about those businesses. So every Monday when we have our weekly partner meeting, we're talking about many companies in the portfolio, and we're collectively figuring out how each of us can help, whether or not we're on the board. So in order to facilitate that, we have to share a lot of information.
Right. Well, I want to move to our last reader question, which also ties into some of this acquisition information. But what percentage of acquisitions for big tech companies like Google and Microsoft are focused on hiring expertise within a specific domain versus acquiring a company's core business?
I think it's hard to assign a specific percentage, to one category versus the other. I think what you find is most large technology companies do a mix of both, right? They do a lot of smaller acquisitions where the desire is to sort of fill a specific gap in a team inside of their organization, or a gap in a product line or a product roadmap. Often, a lot of these deals happen without the press or anyone even knowing about them, because a lot of them are smaller transactions.
Right.
And then, of course, they'll do their fair share of the larger deals as well. I mean, an example of that would be Microsoft Nokia recently.
Of course, yeah.
And I think both are really important tools for a large company from an M&A perspective.
But you're definitely seeing more of the Aqua Hires, you know, of late. You know, you see Facebook, you see Google doing it, and you know, definitely most of those, as you said, some of them fly under the radar. But is there a reason why there seems to be more Aqua Hires? Is it because we're finding out more about them, or is it because they're just more, that's the talent, the way that talent is flowing through?
I think a lot of it has to do with the market for talent today, right? Particularly engineering talent. Here in the Bay Area, it's such a tight market. If you have a great team of people that have a track record of working well together and producing a quality product together, even if that product wasn't ultimately successful in the market, that's a really important asset for a company like a Google or a Facebook that's out there every day trying to hire the best engineers they can. So it makes a lot of sense for them in this particular market where talent's so hard to come by to do more Aqua Hires than they've probably done in the past.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lena. It was great being here.